Hi and welcome to another edit of All About Food. So today I'm going to be showing you one of my favorite things to make if we're in isolation or not, because it's super easy and it's a take using tin tuna. So we might all be a bit fed up of it. You know, it's really delicious in sandwiches, on potatoes and salads, all that kind of vibe. But this is a really delicious way to use it up and makes for a bit more of a substantial meal. So gonna bring these things into shot for you. What have we got apart from tuna? I have some olives, 1 clove of garlic, any pasta you like. I'm going to use some linguine because that's what I had. I've got half a red onion, and then magical ingredients, capers, always brilliant to have in store. Little touch of passata, and then culinary BFFs, always fennel and chili. So I know everybody who's worked with me in a kitchen before will find this hysterical, because if there's no chili, no fennel, no lemon, and no Maldon salt, then Sabrina cannot have made it. So this is so easy, and it's a perfect thing to whip up for a fast lunch or for dinner. So you can serve it with a salad or just some bread, and you'll be ready to rock. So not very technical on the equipment here, just a wooden spoon and a couple of pans. So always allow yourself plenty of space for your pasta. So I'm using a long pasta for now. So I've gone for a deeper pot, plenty of water, pinch of salt, and that's coming up to the boil. If you don't use a big enough pot, your pasta's gonna stick together. That will cause drama and stress, and we're not interested in any of that. So as this comes up to the boil, the pasta's looking at about 8 to 9 minutes to cook, which is fine. So we'll have a glug of olive oil into here. And then we are going to start with our garlic and our onion. So what to do, you can mince it, you can grate it, you can slice it, you can do as you please. I quite like mine in little slices. And perhaps controversially, I like to add mine with the onion and cook it out for a tiny touch longer. So because I like quite a strong garlicky flavour. So this is peeled. Didn't get myself a little pot. My odds and ends. So food waste in here. So I've got no heat in this pan just yet. I've just given it a glug of oil. So when my garlic is in, then we'll begin to warm the garlic. If you pop it into a screaming hot pan, it'll sizzle and fry up, which is great, but you'll probably burn it, and then it'll have this horrible, acrid, bitter taste, which we absolutely do not want with this. So let's have a touch of onion also. How do we want to slice this today? I think that's actually quite a lot, so let's go for some slices, shall we? So again, straight in. If you're not really into onion, you don't have to add it. It's really not a problem. So at this point, I'm just going to get a bit of low heat into the pan to start warming up the garlic. The onions will soften, the garlic will infuse the oil, and then we'll start working on that base of the sauce. So this isn't one of those dishes that you have to cook out for hours on hours on hours. But this base part, if you start working, if you want to batch make it, you can. And then you can cut it into different sort of dishes if you like. It's just a really nice tomato sauce. So, herb-wise, when we get to finishing this, I'm going to use some parsley and a touch of basil. So we'll omit stalks for stock pot for later. And I like it to be quite chunky, so I've got a few, maybe 4 or 5 leaves of basil and my parsley, and then we'll go for a bit of a chop. So you just want to chop through once, really, so that you don't begin to bruise the herbs too much. Okay, so this coming up to 10. Naturally, if my stove had stayed on, that would have been flawless, wouldn't it? Now we've got some heat. Okay, perfect. don't really want to see any colour on the garlic. You just want to be able to watch it sizzle and pop in the oil, because that's when you know all of the garlicky goodness is working into the oil and not burning. So, water's coming up nicely. So I've drained my tuna tin. Let's pop these herbs to one side. And then we can start looking at fennel seeds. Huge fan, borderline obsessed, and not that sorry about it, frankly. So they just add this amazing pop of flavour to whatever they land in, really. So Sunday lunches in our house, you won't find a carrot without a fennel seed, generally speaking. So huge fan. And I'm adding just a little handful. I'd say about half a teaspoon, maybe a pinch more because I just love them. And why? Just, you know, you have those classic flavour combinations of garlic and fennel and fish. If I had a fresh bulb of fennel, you might want to shred it up and throw that into here, so you're kind of developing the sofrito base as such. I don't have a bulb of fennel, and this is supposed to be easy life pasta, so that's kind of what I wanted to show you. Oh, smells amazing. Okay, so what's occurring in the pan? I'm coming over to you now. We can see things just softening nicely in here. You don't want a rapid fry, but you can smell sweet onion, you can smell anise from the fennel, and you can smell warm garlic, not burnt garlic, which is really important. And then everything else happens in a very quick way. So when you've got some warmth occurring in here, and your garlic has started to soften a bit, so it shouldn't look, when it's raw, you see quite sort of white sliced garlic. When it starts to cook out, you can see the colour change a little bit too, along with the smell. So when the garlic is soft to the touch in the oil, then we're going to add our passata. So if you don't have, I buy the bottled passata because obviously you can screw the lid on and then leave it in the fridge for a couple of days, which is super useful. The little cartons will do, and if you only have a tin of full chopped tomatoes, well, that's all right too. You can blitz them, blend them, or push them in whole and then break them down with the back of the spoon. Completely up to you. So, into here now, we're going to go with our passata. So I'm just making enough for two for lunch, really, because I'm cooking a lot at home. But if you wanted to batch make this part of the sauce, you can. You can freeze it. You can add the tuna to it later. You can add meatballs to it, as you choose. So what's happening now? Where's my molten salt? So I have to show you this, because how cute is that little molten salt pig? So we're going to go in just to season this up now. Obviously our capers will add a bit of fire. Our chili and capers will add the salt and the fire a little bit later on, along with the olives too. But we just want to give a bit of flavour to the sauce as it's working. So, not a rapid boil, we just want to watch it simmer gently. If you are really pushed for time, you can obviously crank it up, but stay with it because you don't want anything to catch or burn. Great. So at this point, I'm going to go for a little sprinkle of my chili flakes. So don't go nuts, because once it's in, you can't take it away. You can add a bit again if you'd like to. Sometimes I use fresh chili. I'm saving my chilies for a different recipe because I'm going to make the roasted salsa, which is perfect when the weather's like this. So dry chili goes in, fennel's working, and we're not going to create a super reduced thick sauce, because when we add the tuna will absorb some of that moisture too. So I think you can see from my shot, you've just got a gentle bubble happening, and that's perfect. Add a splash of water if it's getting too thick, But we need to cook out the tomatoes a little bit now. So all we're doing is adding more things to the pan, but we need them to start working together to create the flavour that we want. In retrospect, it may not have been that smart to wear a white shirt whilst making tomato pasta sauce. So we might have to do a bit less of the pan tossing at the end. Otherwise I'm going to need another outfit. Right. This looks so good and it smells amazing. So let's take just a couple of olives. Mine were already marinated and they're green. You can use whatever you have. Just make sure there's no stones in them, because no one wants to bite on an olive stone in the middle of getting involved in a big old bowl of pasta. So you can chop them however you want them to be. I'm just going to go for some rounds on here. I've just used a couple, maybe 4 olives. If you have chopped, you can use that too. Just hand wash. And then I'm going to pop my pasta in. Just a little portion for lunch for me. Okay, got some tongs to deal with that. So sauce is reducing really nicely here. So what kind of consistency are you looking for? When you draw your spoon through the pan, just for a split second the sauce should pop. So if you're unable to do that, then you're not quite there yet. So we'll turn that down a little touch. And then really the finishing element is super fast. So let's give our pasta a little turn. This may officially be the smallest portion of pasta I have ever cooked in my life. So I just wanted to whip up a very light lunch. But again, for anyone who's ever worked with me in the kitchen or has had a pasta supper that I've cooked for them, you'll know that we really make pasta for a small army. So sauce in here is looking really delicious. And you can see it's come together and all the olive oil has emulsified with the sauce, which is perfect. So now we're just going to have a little check. And it's really up to you the way you want to play your pasta sauces, which is that some are sweeter than others. You don't necessarily want sweetness, but you do want balance from your tomato. So the passata that I was using is actually really delicious, but you might find if they are just a fraction too sweet, just a half teaspoon of a balsamic or a sherry vinegar or something to that will help kind of enhance your tomatoes a little bit more. So especially the cartons, I find I just have just a half teaspoon, makes them feel a bit more full of flavour. So, a little bit of pasta's cooking. Genuinely surprised at my own discipline at the size of the portion here, which is so unlike me. So what I'm going to do is make a touch now in a portion that you can see and I can have for my lunch. And then the rest of the sauce I'll probably keep to one side, and then that's tomorrow's lunch taken care of. So now that we're happy with this, we're going to go in with olives, which is super easy. And then just a tablespoon of these little capers. Just make sure I'm not spilling them. So traditionally, your puttanesca would have anchovy as the base, which also is absolutely one of my favourite store cupboard ingredients. But this way, I think, I don't know, I guess it's a more child-friendly approach if you can manage to get them to eat the capers. But it just is a different way to use up what we might already have a few of. So, okay. Pasta working. Sauce is looking great. And at this point, after a hand wash, I'm going to look to add the tuna. So that couldn't have been any simpler, really. So what have we got? I have been seeing in my supermarket travels these really beautiful jars of tuna too. So delicious, and you can strain off some of the oil and use that when you're frying off your base too, just so you're keeping all of the flavour into the sauce. So I'm just going to lean in to show this to you now too, hoping that you can see. So that base is pretty much ready to go. I'm going to keep it on a very low heat, but you don't need to leave it on the heat at all. Give that a stir. And then the most important part to finish the sauce is that you must always take a spoonful of your pasta water and add it to your sauce and finish the last minute in the cooking. So if this is a speed dinner and you really can't be bothered, then completely understood. Add the ladle into here of water and you're ready to rock. If you don't want to put the pasta in and cook it out for the last couple of minutes, but if you can, I would, because it really does make a difference. So, a little check. A little bit longer. I quite like some crunch to my pasta. I'm seriously down for that al dente approach. But now seems like a good time to just take a little touch. Of your starchy water. Again, if you want to use a gluten-free pasta, that's great. But consistency-wise, I think my tip would be to always remember that when you add the pasta to the sauce and then you're sat at the table, even whilst you're sat, the pasta will continue to absorb the liquid from the sauce. So don't be shy about sauciness when you're creating the dish, because as it sits, or indeed if you keep it for tomorrow, it'll continue to keep soaking up all of that flavour. So something to watch out for. Right, so that's done. We're going to go in with a handful of herbs because that was our last step. Lovely. Something to plate on. Using a plate. Lovely. Okay, so garlic, olives, capers, tiny bit of red onion, tin of tuna, passata and some fresh herb. And we're all good. Okay, so pasta looks spot on to me. So I'm going to go straight from one to the other. There's no draining. Just be careful. Obviously, if you are using a different shape, a short shape, or a rigatoni or a penne or something, then you can just use whatever you like to fish it out. Or as soon as you've taken your ladle of water, then you can pour the rest out. But the reason we do it this way is to make sure that you don't lose all that water. You might need to add a touch as you're mixing your pasta. So at this point, if I were in the restaurant, I would toss this through just so that everything has mixed really nicely. But for my blouse's sake, I'm going to skip that step. And I'm just going to go in. Gosh, metal utensils and non-stick pans causes me a lot of upset. So we'll give this a nice stir. Smells amazing. Super easy and super fresh. So let's move this to one side for now. And then we can do some plating. So this is so easy. What I will do here is just get my tongs in for now, because we're going to get it up. much more there. And then I'll go back to this spoon for a bit of extra sauce on top. So the question now is Parmesan or no Parmesan? Because that is a, is a serious point of contention for a lot of people. I really don't mind, as you wish. I'm going to go for a tiny little sprinkle for a last second of parsley here, because I love that freshness. And then this is super easy life linguine with a tuna puttanesca. So I don't think that could be faster. I'm sure you can make it even quicker than I can, but so delicious for lunch or dinner. Bit of bread and a salad on the side. And I look forward to seeing what you've cooked.